Why is there a need for Worldview Australia camp? Well, often teenagers finish school with just bits and pieces of worldviews and a way of looking at the world that's not very coherent and sometimes pretty bleak. And if your worldview doesn't line up with reality very well, you're headed for some dark times. We see anxiety, depression, addictions, aggression. So some of us wondered, how can we help teenagers put their worldview pieces together in a way that really does match reality? And do they have enough of the pieces? What's the bare minimum that they need to know before they leave school, not just to survive as Christians in a fairly hostile world, but to be influential in their parts of the world? So how does Worldview Australia address that need? Well, Worldview Australia puts together the basic pieces of the Christian worldview in an interactive journey, and we move from what we mean by the terms worldview and Christian to how do we know it's true, with apologetics about the Bible and the resurrection and their own experiences that they have in small groups as well, through to what difference does it make? Biblical approaches to the questions of origins and science and the sanctity of life and work and leisure and authorities, and how do we interact with people on the street, and how do we grow and be discipled, and what are our ideas of success? So what do we mean, how do we know it's true, and what difference does it make? So at these conferences we have about 20 lectures of input with Socratic questions. And that sounds like too much, but it turns out it's just a challenge that most teenagers have been looking for. They just didn't realise it. But the real transformation happens in the small groups that they have all week. They travel this journey together. And the Spirit works the input through relationships and prayer and the servanthood of each group's young adult leaders. And students stay in the Word long enough to connect one piece with another piece with another piece. And they encounter the joy of truth, and many become much more coherent than they've ever been before. And there's also the Vegemite Cup, where points are accrued through lecture interactions and manners and sports and art and participation. It's a week of really living large. There's always some campers who have no idea what kind of camp they're in for, and they look so mortified when it sinks in as we remove their devices from them. But by halfway in the camp, when they're experiencing the joy of really encountering bedrock truth, they end up mostly saying things like, "This has been the best week of my life." And almost all campers leave camp walking a little bit taller, a bit more confident, more positive about reality and their place in it. Why? Because they've started understanding it. They've started trusting Jesus in a whole new way with their heart and mind and soul and action. And months later, we're still seeing that settledness in our alumni, and great enthusiasm to have their friends come with them to the next Worldview camp for another best week of their lives.